Hello, welcome everybody. I'm Tommy the Keyblade Master, and today is Mario Monday. Now, today I'm going to look at a very important Mario Brothers game. It's on the top of quite a few people's Mario lists. I don't think it's quite as timeless as, say, Super Mario Brothers or Super Mario World. However, this game is still important. It's still a fun game. It's one of the best. What game I'm talking about? Well,
It's me, Mario! Hello!
that's right, today I'm going to be talking about Super Mario 64. Now, this game is not as influential as the original Super Mario Brothers. That said, a lot of third-person action games owe a lot to this game. It's one of the first games to really use an analog stick. And because of that, analog joysticks kind of became popular. Sony would later outdo Nintendo by putting two on theirs. It's a really good game. How has it aged? I'm going to be looking into that because that is a problem. Not just graphics, we're talking about bugs too. So I'll be talking about that. But for the most part, this game's still a classic. Well, the story isn't too different than most other Mario games. It starts with Mario receiving a letter from Princess Toadstool / Peach.
Mario, please come to the castle. I have baked a cake for you. Yours truly, Princess Toadstool. Peach.
To come to her castle to eat a cake. When he arrives there, though, the castle's too quiet and he hears a booming voice taunting him to go in. He finds out that the princess has been captured and imprisoned literally in the wall of her own castle. In order to free her, he must go into the worlds in each painting and retrieve power stars to open more worlds and eventually have enough of them to rescue the princess. Now, like most Mario games, the story's not up front and center driving it. It's more in the background. It's just an excuse to go explore Peach's castle. However, Peach's castle has become a mainstay in the series, mainly because I like the fact that it's decorated like a giant playroom, and if you understand Peach's personality in later games, that kind of fits her mental situation, you could say. But for the most part, the story's, like I said, pretty much in the background. All you have to know is you're exploring this castle and you need to get power stars to move on. I should point out something, though. In Super Mario 64, this is the first time they started calling the princess by her Japanese name, Peach. Before that, had been Toadstool. And the way they go about changing this is a little unusual. Rather than just going cold turkey, it seems like every other line they switch between Princess Toadstool and Princess Peach. As you can see here, Bowser refers to her as Princess Toadstool in this line of dialogue. However, after your fight with him, her name all of a sudden becomes Peach again. So it's kind of odd to have that change like that. Now, there's been instances in Sonic the Hedgehog where Robotnik's name was changed to the Japanese Eggman as more dialogue was added into the games, but usually when you go back to Robotnik, it's an in-joke in Sonic. Mario, it seems to be a mistake whenever you see that. Whether it's on purpose or not, I can't tell, but just the way they went about changing it's kind of odd. I'm not gonna lie, the graphics in this game definitely show their age. There's a lot of jagged edges. The character design is not exactly great. I will give it credit though. The world is colorful and it is fun to run around in. The camera controls are also a mess. I'm not saying this game's ugly. It just shows that it's almost 20 years old now. Kind of hard to believe. But yeah, it's approaching, 2 decades old, and it shows it. Again, pretty good looking for its age, but not exactly timeless. Again, though, like I said, it's the camera controls that can really screw you up just a little bit. They're kind of limited. The N64 may have invented the analog stick, but the Nintendo only put one on their controller. Rather, the camera controls on games like this were done with a bunch of C buttons. Playing on the Wii U using the classic controller, the second analog stick just gives you those limited camera controls that the C button did. It works okay, but it's not as good as what modern games can do. And while I am nitpicking some of the things that haven't aged well, I should probably reiterate the game does still look good for its age. And there was a lot of imagination and charm in this game, like this gigantic chain chomp that you see here. And you also have another area where you go into, and it's a giant land of sorts, except that you can change the size by going into pipes or choosing which picture you use to enter the world. There's a lot of imagination in this game. So, yeah, it's definitely worth checking out, just don't expect it to be floored like you would a modern high-definition game. I guess I should get this fact out of the way first. This is the first Mario game where we heard him talk. In fact, this intro right here.
It's me, Mario!
Well, this wasn't Charles Marionette's first outing as Mario. It was the first time we as Nintendo fans heard him. He had been in a few PC games, plus did a few Nintendo press events earlier before. Now, this It's a Me Mario that you heard here has been done many times, parodied many times. Even Ubisoft's Assassin's Creed 2 made a little fun of that line. Listen here.
Do I know you from somewhere? Don't you recognize me? It's a me, Mario!
As for the rest of the music, it's pretty good. Most of the music is lively like this. However, things like the Ghost House has a really moody feel. As far as the voice of the princess goes, Nintendo actually went and did something that a lot of gamers kind of poke fun of. And that is, whenever we hear a game with bad voice acting, we said, well, they must have gotten the janitor. Well, they didn't get the janitor, but they got Leslie Swan, which is one of their higher-ups in their localization team, to go do her voice. So, not exactly a professionally trained voiceover actress. That said, she's probably the best voice of Princess Peach we've had so far, because, well, most of the time when I hear Peach's voice in other games, I want to do this. The only sound effect in the game that I found annoying was this baby penguin right here, whose cry is loud and obnoxious. Shut up! I think there's a reason why a lot of gamers do this after getting the star. It occurred to me, I might be a terrible person, but at least I still have my sanity. So I've told you how the game looks have aged, and it's not as pretty, but the sound is still good. So what's the gameplay still like? Well, like I said, because the graphics have aged and how games have changed, I just don't see a person who's like 10 years old now coming in with the same perspective I did when I first played this at 15. That said, I still see there's some magic exploring Peach's castle on the outside. There's secrets to explore even in this area. You know, and at the time when this was created, having a game like this was entirely new and foreign to a lot of console owners. It's big, it's magical, and it just really blew away the competition. A lot of Sony fanboys like to put up Crash Bandicoot as Sony's answer to this, but I hate to tell you guys, that's not really an answer. There's not a lot of gameplay similarities between Mario and Crash. And if you ask me, Crash Bandicoot's a boring game from an overrated developer. If Sony fanboys want to at least point to a PS1 game that's similar in some ways better, at least point to Insomniac's Spyro. But anyways, yeah, this game's still big and magical when you are just exploring on the outside, but things get better on the inside when you really start playing. Once inside the castle, you're allowed entrance to one room, which contains this Bob painting. But it's what happens after you collect your first star that makes Mario 64 probably one of the better Mario games, at least in the way it's built. What I love about Mario 64 is that it really is one of the more open Mario action games. You don't have to get the star you're on in a stage to complete it or to collect it. For example, even though I selected the first star, which was to climb the mountain and face off King Bob, I can instead free the chain chomp and have it break the gate that will get me a star. This is actually star number 6 on the stage, but I can collect it first. And to access new stages, all I need is to have the star requirement to enter them, or a key in some cases if there's a Bowser fight that you'll need to have to access them. All in all, like I said, this makes Super Mario 64 a very open world. There is only a few exceptions to this rules, mainly the ones that involve boss fights, but usually they're star number 1 or 2 if there is something that's blocking the way. So again, the game feels incredibly open. You have more freedom to explore and go at your own pace. And it makes the game a lot less frustrating that way. It's great because if you find yourself getting owned in a stage, you can just go do another stage or another star right away. You only need 70 of the 120 stars to beat the game, so you only need a little over half of the available stars in order to rescue the princess. And to me, that's what a good Mario Brothers game should be like. Not one that has super switches that beats the game for me if I end up sucking or in a bind, but one where doing all the easy stuff will let me win, but if I want to see everything and collect some of the special items, I have to go through some extremely hard challenges. A lot of the great Mario Brothers games are set up like that in some way or another. Think about it this way, the only way to get the Hammer Brothers suit, which is the strongest item in Super Mario Brothers 3, is to go through World 6 and 7, some of the longest and hardest stages in that game. Same goes for here too. Rescuing the princess is easy because I only have to worry about the first 3 floors, but to get all 120 I have to do the stages on the top floor, and they include this really difficult sky stage, a clock stage, and a few other tricky bonus areas. So, like I said, getting the princess is easy, getting everything is hard. But there is a reward also for collecting everything. Collecting all the stars will allow you to get shot up by a cannon to the top of the castle roofs outside, where there will be a special green person who is not Luigi to give you a special message from the development team and 100 lives. You'll also get a special jump from doing that, and there will be a few changes to other areas as well. It's kind of fun going after all of them if you have the patience. So there's definitely a reward for perfecting your time on the Princess's Secret Slide. What about the DS version? I can't really recommend that one as much as the N64 or the Wii Virtual Console version. It's not that I dislike the changes, I loved what Nintendo tried to do, but understand, Mario 64 invented analog control games for the 3D games on consoles. It brought that to console gamers. The DS only has a digital gamepad, and it just doesn't work. Now you might say, well, the 3DS has that analog slider. Well, that just emulates the D-pad in 4 directions. It's still not full analog control, and it actually makes it controlling that game worse than just playing it with the DS's D-pad. Again, I like what they tried to do, but I don't like the game itself. I don't have any footage because that would require modding a DS. If you only have a DS to play Nintendo games on, go get it. But if you got a Wii, download Mario 64 off the Virtual Console. I give Mario 64 a 4.5 out of 5. It does have its H spots, so it's not perfect, but it's still a really fun game. It's worth the $10 that Nintendo asked for it on the Virtual Console. If you do buy it off the Virtual Console, I do recommend having a GameCube controller if you own an old enough Wii that supports it. The Classic Controller Pro does an alright job, but the GameCube controller just feels better playing this game. Well, thanks everybody for watching. Please feel free to comment below, and please subscribe to my channel.